I'm Cliff Gray. I'm here representing Bluefin Payments, but I'm going to keep that simple. I'm a longtime payments guy, and when I think of OmniChannel, I think of a number of different things, but even just in brief discussions with these gentlemen, I'm already understanding that there are many perspectives to the OmniChannel. So without much pause, I'm going to let these guys tell you all the things that I'm just learning. So with us today, we have Jim Walls from Alliance Data, John Cray from Inghouse, and John Killeran from AtPay. These three are going to speak to marketing, payments, and service as perspectives of multi-channel. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Mr. Waltz.
Thank you. Can everybody hear? All right. So let me state first, I'm not an omni-channel expert. I head up mobile strategy for Alliance Data. Alliance Data, for those who do not know the company, a lot of people don't. We are the card services behind about 140 brand partners in the United States. We do about 80% of our business with private label, where we're their e-share acquirer and some of the processing. It's a closed loop system. About 20% in co-brand, which we've gotten more aggressive in the last year and a half. And of course, in that scenario, we'll ride the rails of a Visa or MasterCard or a partner there, but we do the co-brand partner. We have some customers have both a private label and a co-brand program. Have been heavily in the past in soft and hard goods. We have some of our retail partners here today. We do the card services program for. The co-brand, so if you walk in a mall, you'll see 15, 20 of our customers, anywhere from the Victoria's Secret, Express, Limited, Lane Cinda, on and on, J. Crew, on and on. So we do those programs. In that ecosystem, it's us furnishing those card services programs. The retailers have their brand on the card. We don't promote our brand. If you look on the back of those cards, you'll see very small print, one of our banks, community banks. We believe the brand should always be out in front. That's why we're a B2B2C company. The retailers enjoy either no interchange or very little interchange, so that's a win for them. Consumer gets rewards, offers, loyalty programs. And so those programs have been strong. We'll see tender share anywhere from 5 to 50% on these private label programs. So that's a little background. So as head of mobile strategy, I look at those payments in omni-channel, whether that's in the brick and mortar or online through their e-commerce and commerce. And we're trying to look, so what is mobile and digital doing to the omni-channel, and more specifically, how does it relates to payments, since this is a payments conference. So I'm going to look at it through a lens. I'm not an expert. I'm not going to speak for our retailers. We have some retailers that are doing a great job trying to solve omni-channel. A year ago, we used to joke, everybody talks about omni-channel, but nobody's really doing it. It's complex. And we have a lot of retailers who are really, trying to understand that. So let me start with kind of a stage as we see it. In that traditional shopping journey, right, which used to be very linear, is completely changed, right? You may start in one place, go over here, awareness, engagement, transaction, loyalty, it's just all over. Traditionally, those retailers were in control of that shopping journey. They told you, flip off the coupon, come in my store, buy what I have, buy at my prices. They were in control of that shopping journey. So that has been flip-flopped, really disrupted by mobile and digital, because now consumers are carrying these powerful computers that they can find things, learn things, do things, get things, interact, and now they're transacting. So there's a gulf here between consumer expectation and what retailers are delivering. Retailers are concerned because they would love to have that brand engagement experience across social, their brick and mortar, their e-commerce. Consumers, as far as they're concerned, whether they get a push or a text or an email or something on Facebook or online, you have all these new digital mobile touch points that are interacting with these physical traditional touch points. So that's very complex for a retailer who has basically set up, they're like silos, right? They have a sales, a marketing, an IT, a finance, a store operation. They actually separate their online from their brick and mortar. And you've seen it's where you've seen different pricing that you can get online. So they have these silos, they're collecting data in those silos, and so they have a big challenge. And so what we try to do is help them, especially in that digital mobile, depending on their sophistication, where can we help navigate? But I'm just kind of giving you an overview of the complexity of retailers. And at the end of the day, a lot of these retailers are working with very low margins. It's a very tough competitive business. They can't devote a lot of resources and monies. They understand that the consumer is driving the shopping journey. They want to delight their consumers, but it's a much more complex picture than it was a few years ago when they said, go online for this, come to our stores for that, and they were in control. So we empathize with them. Again, you read about always kind of like the same 5 and 10 that are doing great things in mobile and doing mobile payments. But there's a bulk of these retailers that are really out there trying to adapt. From our view, we kind of approached it from, let's take our traditional things like how do we acquire acquisition, how do we acquire new card subscribers, and how do we drive that tender share in the store. And so, like traditionally banks did, you just stick that mobile channel over them. But mobile's not a channel anymore. It's really just, it's an extension of who we are. It touches every single thing. So we put mobile over acquisition, so we acquire customers now through the mobile. So instead of walking up to a point of sale and giving out information to somebody who probably doesn't care, and private information now from the privacy of your handset can get approved for one of our cards. We virtualized the mobile card, so a lot of people don't carry plastic. A lot of people don't want to carry plastic, so we've mobilized that card on the phone. And we present these tools, these plugins, to our retailers so they can put it either in their retail app or link that technology into their e-commerce, m-commerce sites. Or we actually, in some cases, build shell apps for our retailers and put our plug-in there as a container. Because an app is just a delivery mechanism. That's how we look at it. For us, it's important because if you took the time to apply for a store card, you probably would take the time to load an app and actually use it. So it's kind of a sweet spot for us. But where we're focused now, what are things that mobile can do that you never could do? What are those new things you can do? So if you look at a plastic card, I always call it a dumb plastic card because it can only do one thing. It's a swipe or a bumper tap. So we tend to look at things for our retailers. What can you do around that utility? Because that's all that payment is a utility. I mean, nobody gets excited about applying for a card or paying, right? But you get excited about offers, rewards, engagement, getting new product information, things that can elicit emotion from you. And that emotion for us, what we term it as a trust that builds a loyalty between our retailer, our brands, and the consumers. So I'm going to stop there because I'm throwing a lot at you and kind of move it down the table here. But pick up some of these pieces and you can get back.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Kaloran, and CEO of AtPay. And at AtPay, we live in the OmniChannel. All three of us have a different perspective. Jim brings, from the marketing standpoint, I'm talking about OmniChannel as payments, as transactions from the OmniChannel, trying to make the OmniChannel more interesting and vibrant for merchants so they can actually close deals and receive payments through it. And John's going to talk about it from a customer service perspective, which I thought was really fascinating. I never thought of OmniChannel flowing from the customer service out. I always thought of it from the marketing and sales in. So at AtPay, we've invented a thing called payment through SMTP. Every other kind of online payment is through hypertext transfer protocol. We do it through SMTP, which is simple mail transfer protocol. And the beautiful thing about slipping it through SMTP is in your email client, you already have a password. That's why our shirts say passwords suck, because when you pay with SMTP, you don't need a password. And it takes that whole friction out of the transaction. Now, how many times do you go to do something and they're like, oh, put your password in? oh, I got to think about that, or set up a password. You know, people just back away from the password. So we live in doing these 2-click transactions from Facebook, from Twitter, from email, from text messaging, even from a piece of paper, kind of an Internet of Things, where you can just scan that QR code and it makes a payment email and you pay, just in 2 clicks. Even from shirts, physical things. These are all channels as we see it, so that transactions can happen from everywhere. And Jim brought up a point where these merchants are struggling with it, and it's kind of frustrating for them because they've got all these new things to deal with, and they're really just marketing things which they don't know they're going to get a return on. And our idea is to put little intuitive payment hooks out there so they can just go click, click, oh, I do want that. If they see an opportunity on Facebook, boom, boom, buy. And we've seen that very effective in the nonprofit space. You do a Facebook post, we have a 2-click button that's on Facebook. You click it, boom, boom, and you're out. And it's a fast donation process. And then the other thing you said, Jim, what I thought was very funny is mobile's not a channel. Mobile's at least 5 channels, right? Facebook, Twitter, email, web, and text. There's at least 5 channels. I just jotted down on that. So that's what AppPay is. That's how we see it. It's about putting the transaction, make it easy for people to buy out there on the OmniChannel. And I think the OmniChannel will get a lot more interesting.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Cray. I'm from Enghouse. Our number one, it's actually not pronounced Enghouse, it's actually Enghouse. Our number one goal was to create a company name nobody could pronounce. So I think we've succeeded.
You passed.
So our take, as John said and as Jim said, our take is the service side of things. So imagine that you're on your mobile device, you have your credit card set up, you're ready to make a payment through email, through AppPay, whatever it might be. Our goal is then, what if you need help? Right. So what if you're at a point in the transaction where the payment didn't go through, you would have questions about how to execute the transaction, whatever it might be, you need that live help. I saw a statistic the other day that said something like 91% of people, if they don't get a good brand experience on their mobile device, will abandon the brand. It's an incredibly high percentage. And more people are getting savvier about customer service. But we think that it's really vital to support customer service with live help, especially the first couple times you use the service. You can train your customers, but you have to be able to be there for them if they run into difficulties. So our goal is provide that single-click access to a live person. What is involved in that can get relatively complex. Because if you think about it, if you're in the middle of executing a transaction on the device and you then need a live person, you don't want that live person to start from scratch. They have to have context. They have to know where you are in the transaction. They also have to be the right person. There are different kinds of transactions. If you're a financial institution, you might offer loan approvals. You might offer, complex services, funds transfers, and so on. Bank-to-bank transfers, payment transactions, whatever it might be. You're going to run into different problems and you're going to have different expertise to help you. So route the interaction to the right person intelligently, have them have the context, and then as John was saying, the mobile device is actually many channels. Maybe the right way to do it is to text them back the information they need. Maybe it's to send them an email with that link to allow them to go through AppPay to make the payment. Whatever it might be, offer all those channels of communication, and that's our goal at Enghouse. Then the other side to it is proactive. You're always in a situation where potentially if you can, instead of waiting for the customer to contact you, reach out to them proactively. Tell them the payment is due is an obvious one. But what about tell them about a product or service they might be interested in? That's a little more subtle, but something where you need that channel of communication out to them through their preferred approach, whether it's email or text, whatever it might be. Get it out to them and then let them interact from there. So offering that omni-channel experience as part of the overall customer service experience is our goal.
Excellent. Good information. If I may, I'd like to interject a question because I'm fascinated by multiple comments here about mobile not being a channel. Mobile is multiple channels. I'd like to ask kind of a two-sided question. Do you see mobile, are there other channels yet to be identified or turned into a value? And or are there certain aspects of mobile that have become hurdles, if not disruptors, to your various operations? And I don't know if who wants to take that first, but
You know, I think in an ideal world, I would drop the mobile and, call it like invisible payments, right? It's like an Uber-like experience. So if a retailer or brand can get to that point where there's just a great customer user experience and that payment is happening in the background like Uber and local market, I think that's, kind of where we're looking at. This is a long journey, we're in the early innings. So, I look at mobile as just an extension. To me, we used in telecom, we used to talk about the last mile. Mobile to me is like the last 12 inches, right?
Right.
It's in your hand. To our retailers, if you're not in their pocket or on that phone or in their hand, you're going to lose with your consumers. That is your one-to-one marketing. So it's not TV, it's not radio, it's not newspaper, store stuffers, it's print. It's a consumer. 80% of them have a smartphone. You need to recognize that. You need your brand. That's your real estate. We talk about the most important real estate for a retailer is that smartphone in that consumer's hand. But a mobile is just a minute's ease. But I think eventually, where you would like payments, because again, nobody gets excited about payments, right? It's a very brief process, or whether it's a swipe or a bumper tap or something happening. Mobile is just that word we're using today. I think there's lots of ways. We're seeing buy buttons. You're seeing lots of other different things. But the retailers have a real challenge because they'll accept any form of payments, right? That's their business. They want to make a sale. So whether it's cash or check or a general card or a private label card, gift card, whatever, they want that acceptance. And now they have to deal with Apple Pay and Android Pay, all these new players coming into it. So again, that's another complexity for them. So if you're a retailer sitting out there today, and George from Crate and Barrel rightfully said, consumers love that Apple Pay, right? Simple and secure. But what's in it for the retailer? You're bringing Apple brand into your store. How's your loyalty program works with something that doesn't have any data behind it? So a retailer sitting here saying, okay, don't know why I should do this, but also if my consumers are going to demand it, I got to do it. So again, they're in a really challenging position. They know what Apple Pay looks like today. I don't know what Apple Pay looks like in 2 or 3 years. They saw the Google Wallet. None of them turned Google Wallet on, right? I'm not giving you my data. You got to be kidding.
Right.
So they're a little wary. I'm sure they're going to be worried about Android Pay once, how's that going to work? So they're in a tough situation. And you got Visa checkouts. You got everybody in here. And those retailers are standing there in a tough environment, saying, I guess I want to take your payments, but how far are you going to stretch me? And what does that call for my back-end resources and integration issues? So, again, complexity, it's like, payments is like driving a car in the fog. You can't see out in front of you, you're blinded. But you can see the next 100 yards, so you drive the next 100 yards, and you see the next 100 yards. And I think that's what retailers are doing. You can't look far out ahead. You got to do that journey in bits and pieces. And as you see more information, kind of shapes your roadmap.
And I think it's also the, part of the question was, what new channels do we see coming? I mean, I don't think there's I don't have any great answer to that, but I think what's really getting interesting is what combinations of channels can you use and start pairing channels together to get the transaction done, or to get the sale, to get the customer engagement. And one of the biggest one out there is, I think, and most exciting, if you're a retailer, I think the most exciting channels you should be talking about is shopping cart abandonment. Okay, there's online retail is something like $300 billion a year worldwide. $300 billion sounds like a pretty big number, but it's a small percentage of in-store. In-store is about 14.7 trillion. Okay, so you have 300 billion here online, and you got 14.7 trillion happening in the store. That's a 96% or 94% compared to 6%. The interesting thing is, with the 300 billion that's being transacted in e-com, there's estimates out there it's 4 trillion is being abandoned in the shopping cart. So you've got people out there shopping like crazy on the internet, putting things in the shopping cart and leaving them there. Okay? I mean, the customer has come in and they have told you what they're interested in. They even picked out the size and color, right? I mean, that is just a beautiful opportunity. So now that is the opportunity to take that through a different channel. You know, blast them an email to say, hey, sure you don't want this? I think you left this behind. You know, and here's a quick checkout option. Or, you know, reach out to them through other channels to get that kind of transaction occurring.
Yeah, John and I were actually talking about this just beforehand. So what we can do, actually, we should talk about partnerships, because what we can do is, in addition to the email, and again, this is kind of getting to this proactive nature of things. They're abandoning the shopping cart. They're on a device when they do that. They're either on a PC or they're on their mobile device. They're in the middle of this transaction. They're about to abandon. What if you could proactively chat with them? We've seen this on some websites, right, where chat can be intelligent, where you can actually trigger a chat, again, giving that person who's going to chat context, exactly what's in the shopping cart. Where were they? Maybe we know why they're abandoning. Maybe we know something about that because we've watched them navigate the site. Maybe they're having trouble, with the site. Whatever it might be, we can provide that context and then reach out proactively to them. In our business, we call these touch points, right? They're all the points where your business can interact with the customer, making your touch points valuable and smarter. So they're more about the dumb transaction and more about intelligent transactions with the customer.
Yeah, the channels there just go and go and go. It's like you now have someone on chat and you've solved their problem. And it'd be fantastic if, while you have them in that channel, you could somehow present them with the checkout option. Instead of saying, okay, now go back in and navigate through the 27-step checkout process.
If you look at retailers, about 52% of that traffic to their e-commerce sites are coming from the mobile, and abandonment rate is probably running about 70% versus 40% on the desktop. So it shows you that the customer, why you really have to have a customer first mind for mobile, is that customer has a higher expectation for that user experience on their mobile than they do on their desktop. So they're not going to wait that traditional 4, 8 seconds, whatever. If you have a mobile as your e-commerce site, you're just way behind. And I say that because we still have a large population of retailers out there who have not done an m-commerce, or if they have, it's not a great m-commerce. It's a screen scraping, not very nice. So again, retailers, if you had one imperative for OmniChannel is get your e-commerce into an m-commerce, responsive design, adaptive, whatever you want to do. Get them there first. Do that before you build an app. You really, because the majority of those transactions today are m-commerce transactions, right? They're not in POS, they're in
Right.
m-commerce.
Apps last about 56 days on a phone on average. So you build an app, you got to maintain an app, you got this whole thing, and you get your 56 days of fame.
Yeah, I just saw a stat that 90% of apps are used once. So when a person downloads an app, they're only 10% likely to ever use it again, which is interesting. So mobile websites and temporary apps, right, that get downloaded from a mobile website get used and then don't reside on the phone, it's becoming more and more common.
I'll be a contrarian here. We like apps. We like the combination of various tools for retailers. And if you have a brand, and if you have a 20% that's giving you 80%, they want to engage with you, you can have a much better user experience in an app. I think it's lagging behind in the payment so far because most of those apps just have a link to the e-commerce site. So then you're leaving that app and you're going through another horrible experience on e-commerce. But there's other things you can do in the app. We talked about the beacons, geofencing, reward redemption, coupons offered, product information. There's a lot of cool things you can do in the app. So we like apps. apps also are great vehicles for mobile payments, right? So I like a combination of both. I think retailers have to really think. Let's be honest, they're not Starbucks. They're not serving addictive substance every 6
Right.
days, right? These retailers are going to the site a few times. So how do you engage them, keep them coming back? How do you do your messaging? How do you relate? How do you build that trust, that engagement? If you do that, if you get that secret, I think you've got a great channel there. So I like a combination of both.
I just thought of something we consider a new channel. We're now talking to a number of big brands about product reorder right off the package. So you get this consumable, and you can either text or QR and reorder that thing in 2 clicks, like right from your cupboard. I think that's a whole new channel that's not really out there.
Well, I think another channel is the Internet of Things, right? It's sort of related to what these guys are saying, but I think, I mean, the one that always gets used, your refrigerator knows that it's empty, and so it orders from Peapod, you know, that kind of Internet of Things. But there are so many devices that are getting smarter now, where they know if they need service, they know this or that, and they know when you know, payments might be due, the subscription services know when payments are due. All of it's getting very automated now. So as the more we can make that automated and just happening regularly, the better.
And the other point I thought I wanted to mention before this session ends up is how I think, and I think you guys agree with me, that in this omni-channel world, the customer's got to become in control of the process, right? You may have made that point earlier. And it's fascinating to me that now that marketers and retailers have so many more tools at their disposal to reach out and sell their product, with all those tools, they've actually ended up losing control of the process. And I would have think they would have more voodoo,
Right.
you know, to put on their customers, but it's really sort of turned. And now the customer's in charge.
I actually had a couple more questions myself, but I thought I'd open it up to the field since we don't have a lot of time left. Any questions out there? No, just some glazed eyes. Oh. Go ahead.
Question. What's your guys' thoughts on the OEMs with respect to, I guess, moving forward? Because a lot of the space is being followed now from this, like, you know, retail. Also, the different payment methodologies that we see from overseas and the standards being built even from the U.S. perspective. What's your guys' take on all of this coming together and what's the form factor going to look like from these and wearables in the next 5 to 10? Because what we're building now is going to kind of sustain for future endeavors. So I'm just curious what you guys have input.
I go back pretty long ways in the cellular market, actually. I built cellular companies about 30 years ago. So to me, handsets have become kind of commoditized hardware. They're all slate, 6 inches, black. They all got 12 million megapixels. It's kind of like I saw a commercial the other day, and they were selling a car, and the commercial was about Wi-Fi in the car. I'm going, gee, you know, I used to buy a car because they had tires and a good motor or whatever. So I saw Samsung, you know, the new Galaxy. They're saying Samsung Pay. A few people use it. I'm not a big. I'm going to wait and see on that one because I think they're going to have trouble with the carriers. But so the hardware is kind of commoditized, right? But it still has sizzle for the consumer. They'll buy it on some feature they'll never use. But the really power, as Apple's demonstrated, is in the software and the apps, right? So I think going forward, sensor technology is interesting. I think a lot of people don't really recognize what these phones can do. Somewhere between cool and creepy. I don't think consumers have figured out. So I think you're going to see a lot of things around sensor. And this is what I love about the mobile market. It's things that you could never do, that you could never imagine other watching science fiction, that will be in the future. And that'll create a lot of new business and new jobs. You know, I'm not going to address the point of sale system or some of the other hardware things, but the phone market, it's a brutal business. I was in that business overseas and here. And you know, you got your two players. I mean, it's tough. We got Android and iOS, those Windows and RIM guys, you know, it's, I think we're showing 92% of the market in the States, because Android's it's bigger across seas. 92 between iOS and Android, another 8% between RIM and Windows. And developers are the key, right? You don't get the developers building your apps for you, you're toast out there. And they gravitate right now to iOS first because, especially in the commerce, because a lot's flowing through there. Android's coming on strong, so.
I think what's going to win eventually is whatever makes it best for the customer, one that best serves the self-interest of the customer, where you're somehow making their life easier. It's what they want, because I think they still drive the process. And you know, if it's a pain in the neck system, you know, that system is just sitting there waiting to be disrupted, and something's going to come along that's going to make it easy and work into their self-interest, and whatever that is. So if you're looking at the field of all the things, you have to look for what is going to make that customer happy to do it, because they're in charge.
Just real quick on this topic of customer choice, I think, not exactly to the OEM question, but I think it's important to keep a record of that, right? So what we found is the more you're able to to keep a record, keep track of customer preferences along the way, whether it's the channels they want to use on a regular basis or the particular way they want to execute transactions, you know, whatever it might be, and of course the products and services they require. All of that conspires to create a better personalized experience. And the more you can make it personal when you interact with customers, the more they will return. There's so many statistics that say, regardless of device choice, they choose the device first, then they choose the channel, whatever it might be. Keep track of that and make sure that you make things context aware based on their choices.
Basic rule of being a good human being, you know, like talk to people in the terms they want to hear it, you know, and they'll listen to you.
Yeah, and this is around device, but it just kind of jogged my memory there. Another thing we're seeing with retailers is, you know, this is all about data, right? That's the retailer's, you know, ace card here, the data that they have and how they use it. So they're collecting that data, but they're having a hard time measuring and analyzing that data and being able to use it across all these channels. So they might be collecting something in this channel over here, but how do they bring that together and really use that to delight the consumer? That's a real challenge. And mobile plays a big role in that, right? Because you're mobilizing a lot of those, overlaying those channels. So that's another complexity for the retailers, and they're turning to third parties to help them.
It's the old technology thing. I remember back in the earlier computing days, where, you know, the inhumanity of technology, in the sense where there's only two industries that would refer to their customers as users, and it was the electronic technology industry and the drug industry, you know, and the drug dealers and technologists. You know, their customer base were called users, and you know, that still exists. It just dawned on me, that's still like prevalent out there when you look at the way we make our customers interact with our products electronically, to buy things and to shop. You know, we're still not really treating them like humans. We're treating them like users still. So.
And just like the drug dealer, we want them to come back over and over and over.
Right.
Well, I'd like to just maybe close with an observation. You know, I think a focus of this panel was, what is a channel, right? Well, it depends on your perspective. I tend to come from the technology perspective. I won't date myself too terribly here, but in the old days, you had a very, very tiny, narrow community of developers that developed payment applications. They developed these on a small set, you know, Verifone, Genico, maybe a few others, but it was an extremely deep but very narrow process. Most of the people in this room, you're acquirers, you're technology providers, you are users of these technologies. And one of the channels that has really opened up in some ways very suddenly are these development communities, because now you have payment apps that are on ubiquitous X-based, Java-based, whatever, extremely common development platforms, common, never even dreamed about even 10 years ago or 15 in the payments industry, combined with lots of new channels of opportunity. And I think as those customers of these technologies, payment processes, and those communities, that's just one more perspective. I think it's important that you think about what a channel really means. Like it or not, mobile's in front of us. We have to welcome it in the greater payment environment. And if we can look at channels in good perspectives, multiple perspectives, we can take advantage of these instead of seeing them as obstacles. I think that's it. Last chance for questions. I believe we're out of time. So thank you for your attention.